Hi, today my review is on the Weather Warden series by Rachel Caine, and she also writes the Morgan the Vampire series. This is kind of more her adult series, and there's 9 books in all, and that's it now. She kind of finished writing them, and the last one I think was at last August. So, the Weather Warden series, um, like, subconsciously I need to take a breath when I think of the series because it is such a whirlwind, like, no pun intended, of action and drama and just constant pace is just really, really fast in these books, which I like, but um, like, it's crazy. Like, I was unaware what the storyline was in these books before I read them. So then when I found out it was about a girl and about people who control the weather, I was delighted because that's my ultimate superpower. If I could have any superpower, it would be to control the weather. I'd even settle just for controlling the wind. Um, so yeah, this series is about a girl called Joanna, and in this kind of weather warden world, there are people who control earth, fire, and the weather, and she has the ability to control the weather. And unbeknownst to everyone else, kind of normal people in the world, um, these people have been working for years and years and years in stopping natural disasters, because without them the world would be like ended by these natural disasters. So they kind of keep an eye on it and kind of try to control it. So that's her job. And from the very first chapter of the very first book, you're thrown in there into the action, and it's just constant from there on out. So the story is definitely intriguing and original, and I just loved it when I first heard it. And there's definitely kind of interesting elements thrown in there too. Um, the first book is kind of like Joanna on the run, and kind of all the books she's almost like on the run. There's always something they're running towards or for or from. So the author sometimes gets really technical about the weather in this book. Like, she really did her research. Fair play to the author, but she goes a bit too into the technical details at times, I found. And there's this like plane called the Aetheric kind of plane or something that like Joanna goes up into when she's controlling the weather, and that was unnecessary, I felt. I read all these books. Well, no, I read the first 8 books, one after the other, and this is not what I recommend to you because I was emotionally drained after reading these books. Seriously, Joanna has put through so much, both physically and emotionally, that I felt so bad for her, and sometimes it was just hard to read because it was so much, and you barely get a breather. So yeah, these books, they're full on, and I wouldn't recommend reading them one after the other. Take a break in between. So I love that kind of intensity, but it was a bit too much at times, like, especially since it was all the 8 books. So Joanna, she's kind of like a feisty main character, and she's into fashion, and yeah, she's a good protagonist. And as I said, she's put through so much, and she's in these kind of like life-threatening kind of situations, and a lot of the time no one is around to witness them. So I'm like, what's the point if no one is around to acknowledge this, these dangerous things she's put through? Because that's almost the best part, to see how other people react to her in danger and worrying about her. So that was one thing I was annoyed about. And another thing, like, there's someone in it who's able to heal her at times. So that kind of like just cancelled out all the danger too, because she could heal from every kind of scrape so instantly. So that was another thing that kind of bugged me. But yeah, I have to say the first 4 books I thought were brilliant. The third would probably be my overall favourite. But yeah, the first 4 were excellent books. I have to say though that the books got a little bit repetitive after a while. There's only so many times that the world can almost end. So yeah, the 5th and 6th and 7th were kind of weaker, I felt. Still exciting, still a good enough story, but it got a little repetitive. And the 8th book and the 9th book, they were quite big as well. I suppose they got a bit better then. But the overall series I do like, and I definitely recommend them. But as I said, I'd suggest not reading them all in a row like I usually do, because they are quite full on, and I suppose you get more out of the series if you take a break. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to a spoiler-filled review, with plenty of details, so I suggest if you haven't read the series that you switch off now so you won't be spoiled. Okay, so as I said, Joanna is put through a lot, and even though sometimes no one is around to witness this, I kind of liked how we got, like, we never get to see a main character die so many times as Joanna does. So that was kind of, you know, good. But after a while it was like, come on, she can't die again. Yeah, so as I said, it got repetitive. She started to die and go through these big major end of the world things too much. In the second book, when she became a djinn, I was worried that the author would continue on this for the rest of the series. I'm so glad she didn't. That and Jo became human again, because I've said this before, but I like my protagonist human, more or less human, and I'm happy that we explored the djinn world in the second book. We got to see what Joanna would be like as a djinn. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the decision the author made to kind of just let that lie there in the second book and then make her human again in the other ones. Okay, so Jo and David. So David was the main love interest, and I felt in the first 3 books I really liked him. They had this kind of sweet relationship, and I liked his kind of protectiveness, and sometimes he had a bit of a humour. But then it started getting really old, so after the 3rd book he became just that, that too intense, brooding, way overprotective guy. Like, his love for her was quite, like, suffocating. So yeah, so then I kind of got sick of Jo and David, and then I was more leaning towards Lewis. I always liked Lewis, and then I just really wanted Lewis and Jo to get together. I really liked their kind of connection or their relationship, and like, before the 9th book came out, I kept hoping the author might change her mind and put them together, but no, the author was stuck in her ways, and in the end David and Jo did get together, and Lewis ended up becoming like Master Djinn and died or whatever. He was still around, I suppose. But yeah, so they didn't get together, which is a pity. I loved his kind of declaration of love for her in the 8th book, but it was kind of ruined by his willingness to let her die the second time in that book. Like, the first time he let her die, you could tell it broke his heart. The second time he was quite willing to do it, so that kind of ruined their whole nice sweet relationship there. But yeah, the 8th book was kind of exciting that way. We got to see her die again, and like, you could really feel how scary and evil she was. In the 9th book, again, she was put through so much, and she was shot, and she was like poisoned by a snake, and like, she was like, this is it, I'm dead, I'm gone. And yet again she managed to survive, and yeah, I thought it was nice, I suppose, how she, got pregnant in the end, and they had a son, and her friend then got to raise that other little boy too, and I can't remember, did they call him Lewis? Anyway, the pregnancy idea, where David implanted her with a baby, it's a strange kind of ritual thing. I like the whole pregnancy idea, because I do like when characters get pregnant in books, just to see how differently they're treated and how they change. But this wasn't a natural pregnancy, it was a supernatural pregnancy, and I don't like those, especially this one. It was weird. She was pregnant for like 2 months or something, and then, unbeknownst to her, she has an adult child who looks exactly like her. It was just really weird and creepy. And then I hated how obsessed her and David got with Amara, and I was really glad when Amara kind of just, went to the back side of the story, and she wasn't like majorly involved anymore. So yeah, I wasn't pleased with that element of the story. I liked Kevin. I suppose he was first in it, he was quite annoying. But you gradually get to like him, and I was really hoping him and Joanna could have a better relationship. Like, he was kind of really antagonistic towards her. And I was hoping he would thaw out and they'd kind of get a bit closer. I suppose they did a little bit, which is nice. But then he died in the 9th book, and I don't see the reason for it. Like, the author spent so much time building up his character and, developing it, and then she just killed him, like near the end of the 9th book. and I just thought it was sad and just a waste of that character and made her friend more depressed. Yeah, so I think one day I'll go back and reread this series, but I don't know if I read it one after the other. Yeah, so it's definitely a high octane, exciting series with lots of end of the world scenarios, with interesting enough characters. I mentioned my minor little negatives, but every book series kind of has them. Yeah, so that's my review, and I suggest you check out this series. And if you've any other recommendations, let me know too in the meantime. And thank you very much for watching.